Yes, I deliberately wore my rayon dress for this video. Hey, party people. Today we're going to be talking all about rayon, aka viscose. US, we call it rayon. In UK, they call it viscose. I'm going to tell you what rayon is made out of and what are some of the qualities and what Lyocell is, what Tencel is, what Modal is. They're all related to rayon. And then I'm going to show you a lot of swatches. All right? So first of all, rayon is what they call like a semi-synthetic, made from cellulose. It's made from wood pulp, it's made from bamboo. So it's made from cellulose, natural raw materials, but the chemical processes that it has to go through to create rayon viscose, you can't really call it a cellulose fiber like linen or cotton anymore. It's actually the very first, historically, the first synthetic patented. It was developed in the 1880s, not the 1980s, the 1880s, and patented in 1892. It was originally called artificial silk. It was created to mimic silk, but at a cheaper price point. And it was very popular as a silk substitute in the 30s when war rations, there were cloth rations, and definitely on more expensive fibers like silk. So let's talk about some of the qualities of rayon. Number one, it's very absorbent, which means it sucks up water and it takes dyes very well. And so the colors tend to be as vibrant as you can get fabric. It's cool to wear, which I can attest to because I'm wearing rayon right now. This is rayon. It is a weak fiber and it's even weaker when it's wet. So think about that when you're thinking about laundering rayon. Okay, this is not an excuse to slap on a dry clean only label. So rayon is constructed in long filament fibers, and so it can take on the qualities, the soft, smooth slinkiness, the drapeability, but then it can also be chopped up into staple fibers to create more cotton-like effects. Okay, so it can mimic linen, it can mimic wool, it can mimic silk, all these things. Fusibles, which are the kinds of interfacing and structural elements that have all the little glue dots on one side and you press it onto the fabric, the back of the fabric. You can use fusibles, but because of the slinky nature of a lot of rayon, it peels up kind of quickly. So if it's really important that a structural element remain, like using a sew-in fusible like an organza is preferred. But again, like rayon is so often used for its drape and not really like a structured shoulder or anything like that. Okay, I would still recommend if you want to reinforce a neckline, like a little sew-in or a binding or something like that. Moisture stretches rayon, so you do need to be strategic with how much you're steaming versus dry ironing. And you do have to be careful when you store rayon that you're not storing it in damp conditions because it will mildew like other cellulosic fibers. If you ever want to test whether you got rayon or polyester or something like that and you want to do a quick burn test, rayon, because it is a cellulose fiber, it does burn. It doesn't melt like polyester. It burns, and you get like a soft gray ash like other cellulosic fibers will. And it does smell like burning paper because, again, paper is also a cellulose fiber. People have asked me a lot, like, why don't you do burn tests on your channel? And it's like, I have a lot of 10-year-olds who come on my channel and are like, oh, Zoe, I want to be a fashion designer when I grow up. And I'm like, that's so great. Let me not play with fire in front of 10-year-olds. So if you do want to do a burn test, have a supervising adult, do it in a metal tray, like I did when I was showing burned swatches in my latest video on Operation Reentry. Do it in a sink, have some water handy, you know, all the safety precautions. working smoke detectors, open window. When it's simply called rayon, it's typically made of wood pulp. And when rayon viscose is made from bamboo, typically people just call it bamboo. And so the thing that separates bamboo, and the reason why people think that bamboo viscose is so sustainable, is because of the bamboo plant itself. Okay, it is one of nature's fastest growing plants, and it takes like 4 years to maturity versus 20 to 70 years like other trees. And so it is technically a little bit more sustainable, but it still requires so much chemical processing that you wouldn't be able to put conventional bamboo fabrics in any sort of sustainable column. But yeah, there are benefits to using bamboo over some other trees because bamboo doesn't require pesticides or chemicals. Bamboo biodegrades naturally through exposure to sun and soil, results in reduction of greenhouse gases. But yeah, the fabric itself is not processed in any sort of sustainable, natural sort of way. I have said this many times. You take a plant that can build literal buildings and you try to soften it enough to make a slinky fabric like this, it's going to take a lot of chemicals and a lot of processing. And just think about that. Just without knowing a lot of science or without knowing a lot about bamboo, it's like, it's sturdy enough to build structures. Look at this fabric, this, it's like, how do I get from that to this? There is a company called Litrax, I don't know how to pronounce it. It's a Swiss company, and it has pioneered an eco-friendly processing of bamboo that you can research if that is something you want to pursue. Let's look at some super duper close-ups of some rayon fabrics. I'm going to show you some that are 100% rayon and some that are blends. This is a rayon crepe. This is 100% rayon. And crepe is when you have this sort of pebbled texture on the surface. Okay. Do you see that? How it's not perfectly smooth. These are charmeuses. These are silk charmeuses. This is a heavier charmeuse. This is a lighter charmeuse. But do you see how glossy and smooth these are? And these have a slightly pebbled surface. That's why when you say things like crepey skin, crepey texture, it's like, it's not super wrinkly and rough, it's just slightly so. And here is a silk crepe. So if you see the comparisons, this is charmeuse and this is crepe, and you see a slightly textured surface that you don't see in the charmeuse. The charmeuse is super glossy. The crepe gives a more matte look, but with like a silky drape. And you can have all kinds of crepes. You can have a 4-ply crepe, which is thicker because 4-ply, like layers. You can have a satin back crepe, which is like, it looks like it's all one color, but it'll be shiny, satiny on one side and crepey on the other side. And it's also called crepe back satin, okay, depending on how you want to use it. This one is significantly heavier than this one. You also have to understand that not all silk crepes look like this and not all rayon crepes look like this. It's all going to be down to the individual fabric mills and the exact quality of crepe that they are trying to create. It's like you have 100 chefs and they are all making spaghetti, like traditional red sauce spaghetti. And they can stick to as close to a traditional Italian red sauce with spaghetti noodle as much as they want, but you're still going to get variations and levels of garlic and levels of basil and like all those things, right? It's like that. They're all spaghetti with red sauce. These are all crepes, but you'll have like slight variations, and that's true of any fabrics, okay? If you put side by side a bunch of denims, side by side a bunch of cotton ducks, okay? But these are what crepes look like. This is a polyester rayon crepe by Stretch Crepe, but it's 63% polyester, 33% rayon. And listen, it just kind of looks cheap, all right? Like, here's our silk crepe. And here is our polyester. Okay, let's look at the charcoal. I think it shows up in the light the best. It's thicker, but it just has a really cheap quality. Y'all know this is my favorite book, Fabric for Fashion, the swatch book. This is the newer version with the pink cover. The yellow cover one, the older edition, still good. See here, this is Viscose satin, which is like bonkers shiny. Look at that. This is silk. I say this all the time. Silk is less shiny and more lustrous. Okay, it doesn't have that ping, ting, ting, like high shine of polyester or viscose or acetate. Acetate is a little less shiny, but still more shiny than the silk. I'm trying to like show you all the shine angles. And then this is a polyester crepe back satin. See, this one, the reverse is crepe. The surface is polyester. The polyester is just so shiny. Super shiny. And then the viscose is next, acetate after that. And the satin, the silk, is lustrous, not ting, 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 ting. American toothpaste commercial shiny. This is a rayon nylon jacquard, okay, 81% rayon. And jacquard, again, is a type of weave. And jacquards are weaves where a design is woven into the fabric. And it can look like, you know, you can weave like orange flowers onto this, or you can do same color to create more of a texture as opposed to like a very distinct design. So do you see the kind of abstract floral texture? This is a 66% rayon nylon Rochelle lace. This is a knit lace. Okay. I would also call this style a corded lace because of the cording that wraps around the design. Okay. Some people also call this Alençon lace. Although I do think that Alençon is kind of like champagne, like if it comes from France, it's Alençon lace, and if it doesn't come from France, it's corded lace, okay? Not super sure on that, but it's definitely a type of corded lace because of the cord that edges all the floral designs. Don't look at these prices. These prices are so old, so that if you are looking for a, rayon nylon Rochelle and you're looking at this, don't. Every mill is going to have different prices depending on the quality and, where things come from. And also this was from 2014. Rayon makes for some really nice, heavy double knits. Okay, Ponte de Roma, I forget which. It's a double knit, okay, ideal for heavier tailored applications. I have this Tommy Hilfiger double knit dress, like a shift dress with a 3/4 sleeve that I love. I have worn and washed like 100 times, but the just like the durability of the double knit, it just holds, and it keeps that kind of sort of boxy shift shape in ways that like a single knit jersey never could even dream of. But these are substantial. They're very smooth. This one is a 68% rayon. It's got a little bit of spandex. but it has structure, okay? It has a definite girth, thickness, okay? And it does have stretch, but do you see how it holds the shape? Okay, just even holding it up like this, it holds the shape. Those are double knits. Here are some more double knits. Okay, it's the same Ponte di Roma from the same company, but these are single ply. They're still really solid. They're not stiff, they're soft, okay? They're nice. The rayon makes things kind of smooth. Look at how vibrant the colors are. I mentioned several times that rayon soaks in dye and just loves it. And look how very vibrant these colors are. This pink, this red orange. Like, look how just the colors are so gorgeous. This burgundy, like it really, even these more neutrals, like the color intensity is very beautiful. This is a rayon, and these are single jerseys. And when you curl them to the face, okay, that's how you know the face of any knit jersey is when you stretch it, it'll curl towards the face. You see how it curled like that, okay? But it's so super thin and floppy and drapey. These have some drape. This one is much thinner than this one, but it still will hold its shape much better than a single jersey. Okay. This is a rayon linen blend, 65 rayon. Okay. And you can, linen is really distinctive, whether it is woven or knit, in that variegated look. I don't know if, can you see that? When it's sheared out, you can see the thick and thin and some of the little tangles and knots, which is just like the texture of linen and what people are looking for when they're seeking out linen. It's kind of like Dupioni silk. People use Dupioni silk because they're looking for that texture. Okay, if you don't want that texture, go look at something else, you know? But, okay, you see that? So that's what linen adds to it, but it's really smooth, okay? It's a lot smoother than like a cotton linen blend or linen knit. This is 95% rayon, 5% polyurethane. So this one, you see more of a solid, consistent color, whereas this, with the linen, you're seeing the variegation in the color, okay? But both soak up colors really well because of the rayon, okay? This eggplant color is really beautiful. Look at that yellow. Oof. Y'all know I love yellow. And you're like, Zoe, you only wear black. Yeah, I only wear black here, okay? If you saw me on Patreon sometimes, you would see I wear colors. But even the black, not all black fabrics, okay? Not all black fibers, black fabrics are created equal. Look at the intensity of this black, okay? Just very rich, solid, deep black. So let's talk about Lyocell, okay? Lyocell is a sustainable version of rayon. Some people think that Lyocell, the way it's made and everything, has changed rayon so much that it can be considered its own thing, but it was originally intended as a sustainable version of rayon. It's 100% cellulose, usually eucalyptus, and it's sourced from, what's the certification? FSC, the Forest Stewardship Council. Like rayon, it's soft flowing, drapey, has a smooth surface, it's absorbent, therefore it takes dye well, poor thermal retention, meaning it's kind of cool to wear. It is slightly more like cotton than rayon in its appearance and performance. It is the strongest of all cellulose fibers, and it is higher quality, produces more long-lasting garments, and It is stronger than rayon, and in particular, it has stronger wet strength. So there's that whole like, how many washes can you get out of a garment sort of situation, okay? Lyocell wrinkles, but not as much as rayon. It has better elastic recovery than rayon, wicks moisture away from the body better than rayon, but it does have a tendency to pill. Okay, so there is no such thing as a perfect fabric. The chemicals used to produce lyocell are considered less harmful, and it's produced in a closed loop system. So the easiest way to describe that is it's not like something is being flushed with chemicals and then just put back into the water system. The chemicals are kind of rerouted back into the production, closed loop, as opposed to like just processing and trashed out. And so when you're keeping the chemicals within the closed loop production, all those chemicals are not flowing out into the water supply. On the other hand, lyocell does take a lot of water to produce, and it doesn't particularly biodegrade in landfills very well. This is a cotton lyocell and polyurethane dyed satin. It's a 47% lyocell, so a big chunk of it is lyocell, and it's like a really thin bottom weight. You know, it could be a nice dress weight. Do you see how it has a bit of sheen? Just a bit, okay? Not super shiny, okay? It's satin, which means it's done in a satin weave, which is purposefully made to be very smooth on the surface, okay? The satin is a type of weave, okay? Like plain weave, twill weave, satin weave. These are all specific weaves to create, used to create specific looks. Satin weaves are used to create smooth surfaces. This is a mostly cotton and lyocell blend, which means it's not going to be super duper shiny, but the satin gives it a very smooth look. Like if I saw this in nature and I didn't see the label, I would have guessed that this was a cotton sateen. Okay, so sateen, S-A-T-E-E-N, is a cotton bottom weight done in a satin weave to give cotton as much of the smooth texture as possible, okay? And the reverse is much more rough. I don't know if you can see the matte quality compared to the surface. And this is really interesting. This is a cotton lyocell broadcloth. Okay, this is 65% lyocell, 35 cotton. Broadcloth is typically used in shirting, a lot of men's shirting. The simple, flat, untextured cotton fabric. It's really smooth to the touch. I think the lyocell adds more smoothness as opposed to 100% cotton, which you know because cotton is a little bit fuzzy, especially if it's not combed cotton. These are hemps, and hemps are coming along in the world, okay? And so I wanted to show you some. These are hemp lyocell blends, which hemp is already like a great plant, grows fast, all these great things. And then the lyocell, we just talked about how lyocell is the more sustainable version of rayon. So to have these great hemp lyocell blends, okay, when do you need a blend? Okay, the whole point of blends is to combine the best qualities of each fiber. When we're talking about sustainability of rayon, we're talking about sourcing from the best grasses and trees options available out there for faster regrowth, like not ruining the soil, like all these things, right? So we have hemp on that. Hemp is matte, okay? It performs more, it's a cellulose fiber, so it performs more like cottons do, matte, short staple fibers, that sort of thing. But then the lyocell adds more drape, it adds more smoothness, okay? And so these are coming together and they feel nice. They are a little bit on the stiff side. You know, this one is very crisp. This one is a hemp organic cotton with a bit of lycra. And this would make for an incredible summer blazer. Okay, this is they call it hemp cell. Hemp lyocell, 55 hemp, 45 lyocell. Beautiful twill. You see that diagonal texture. Beautiful bottom weight, okay? Light, but really sturdy, full of body, would make for an excellent spring bottom weight. This one is thinner and crisper, and this one is not a twill. And do you see how there's no diagonal texture compared to that? Okay, you see how the weaves are different. But this is very crisp. This is a summer cloth. Again, this is a basket weave, not a twill. And it's really see-through. And it's matte, but that lyocell is really making things feel smooth. Like you feel the texture of the fat yarns, but it feels really smooth. And it's not quite linen. You know, linen has more of that variegated look that hemp does not, but it does give a little bit more of that texture. Because it's hemp, little bits are falling off. They're not filament fibers. These are bits of hemp fibers coming off. Staple fibers like a cotton. These are some cool wool blends. This is 90% lyocell, 10% wool. And it is nice, okay? This is like so much nicer than your standard wool Melton. It drapes much nicer. Look how it squishes up because it has more drape and it's still pretty fat. It's like a fat fabric, but it just has some extra smoothness. You know, wool can be scratchy. Okay, wool has a ton of amazing properties. I do have a wool video, go check that out. But it can be scratchy. The lyocell smooths things out a lot. This is a wool cashmere. And this is 71% wool, 29% cashmere. And here's the thing, okay? These prices are old. Again, these are from many years ago, but at the time, this wool cashmere, only 29% cashmere is $100 a yard, and this is $732 a yard, okay? And yeah, it's cashmere, okay? And when you feel them, okay, the cashmere is nicer, but not 100 versus $7 nicer. I will say that. This is a small amount of cashmere in the fabric, but how many times does 7 go into 100? It's not 13 times nicer. This is a wool nylon, okay, 90% wool, and this is cool because it was a double face, that's why I liked it, and it is thicker, but it is definitely scratchier than this lyocell, for sure. Tencel is the brand name for lyocell. Most lyocell comes from a company in Austria named Lenzing. And Tencel is the registered brand name. So people will use them interchangeably. It's kind of like tissues and Kleenex. This is a Tencel cotton poly dyed twill. This is 45% Tencel, so it is predominantly Tencel. And you see the twill texture? Okay, that's how you know it's the face and that it has a twill texture. That doesn't mean this is denim though. Not all denim is twill, but not all twill is denim, okay? In order to be denim, you have to have the indigo fibers going in yarns going in one direction and white or unbleached yarns going in the other direction. And that's where you get the duality. That's how you get the white patches when you scrub things, rip things, that sort of thing. But this is just a really nice, solid bottom weight. Oh, it's really stretchy. This is a Tencel cotton poly, okay, kind of similar makeup, 45% Tencel. And this one, It's like a Tencel denim. That's probably how people would pitch it, because it is a twill with indigo dyed this way, unbleached this way, so you get the lighter on the reverse. Whenever I see the word Tencel, I always think of that interview when Denzel Washington tells everyone that his name was originally Denzel, and everyone was like, what? He gives this interview where he's talking about how his father's name is also the same, Denzel, and they were both Denzel, and when his mom would say Denzel, they would both turn around, and so his mom started saying Denzel for his dad and Denzel for him, the actor, and that's how he became known as Denzel Washington. And whenever I see the word Tencel, like I do the Denzel thing. So Modal, not Model, Modal is similar to Rayon, but the manufacturing process is less toxic. They're made of beech trees, and one of the ways to make Rayon more sustainable is to source them from trees that aren't endangered. And beech trees are easier to grow, and their yield is 6 times higher than that of cotton per acre. Okay. And again, most Modal comes from the lensing company in Austria, and not Australia, Austria. Somebody told me, I forget if it's in Austria or Australia, there's an airport counter for people who tried to go to Australia and ended up in Austria, or vice versa, and it helps people sort themselves out. So when I lived in the Bay Area, I had this one girlfriend, and she was on her way to Texas to hook up with this guy she met online. And she ended up going to SFO instead of Oakland Airport. These things happen is what I'm saying, okay? Anyway, Lensing is an Austrian company in Austria, the country in Europe. And they make Modal and they make Tencel Lyocell. Lensing Modal and Lensing Lyocell, I think, are the only 2 carbon neutral man-made fibers being made today. That may have changed in the last year or 2 or so, okay? Modal has even greater wet strength. It holds up to machine washing much better than regular rayon. It's slinky, it's soft, it's drapey, it's comfortable against the body. It's a cellulose fiber. It washes well, just like prime, like undergarments, jammies, sort of thing. These are Modals, okay? This is a micro Modal, cotton Modal, silk Modals, okay, with spandex. And they are all the smoothest. When I first got these, this was years ago, and I actually ordered these for my brand back in the day, and I had never worked with Modal before up until that point, and they're so nice, y'all. This is why people use Modal so much for underwear, because it just feels so nice. It feels nice. It feels nice, okay? Micro Modal, regular Modal is just... The silk Modal is even nicer. Oh my God, and it's so expensive. Or it was then. I'm like, ooh, do I need to spend that much money? Oh. But it stretches a little bit less with the silk, just a little bit. Okay, but it already stretches plenty. Okay, curls to the surface because they're all jerseys. Cotton Modal is the least smooth, because it's still smooth. The Modal it's so yummy. Just go to a store and be like, hi, do you have any Modal jersey? And just grope it. Just be like, oh. And then you're gonna be like, you know what? I need to order all new underwear, and they all have to be Modal. Because, yeah. So a lot of people make underwear out of Modal because it just feels nice against the skin. It is a 70% modal polyester blend. I would say you could make really drapey dresses. It's suede. Some fabrics are brushed on the surface just a little bit so that it's not like fuzzy like flannel is. Flannel kind of fits into that brush category, but flannel is brushed a lot more to give that fuzzy, soft texture. This is just slightly brushed so that you do have some of that softness, okay? It's really soft. It's really soft. And it looks like it would be very drapey and quite wrinkle resistant. Just spraying, and then it kind of. And then the last variation brand name that I want to talk about with Rayon is Cupro. It's short for Cupramonium Rayon. The trade name is Bemberg. So most people just call it Bemberg. I've heard Cupro Bemberg, Bemberg Cupro. Most people just call it Cupro or Bemberg. But the trade name is Bemberg, and it is a very popular lining. It's more expensive and higher quality than polyester. I see it a ton in outerwear garments as lining. It has a really silky, smooth hand feel, but it's not that it's such an expensive fabric and it feels, but it's definitely feels much more expensive than most polyester linings, you know, similar weights, similar usage, things like that. So it does make for a much more popular lining. But this is Cupro Bemberg lining. If you don't want a polyester lining, okay, if you want something rayon, it's like a little bit nicer. It feels really nice. It dyes up beautifully. Look at these colors. No one is doing a dye to match lining. Let's be real, okay? That would go straight into my How to Go Bankrupt Real Quick 101 book that I keep joking that I'm gonna write. But no one is dyeing to match lining. Okay, if you really can't find a color that works with your self fabric, go look for another lining fabric with a different color card. Nobody is like, oh, I'm gonna dye to match a Bemberg. No. All right, I hope I gave you enough of a sampling for you to get an idea as to the many options that Rayon offers. And yeah, drop me all your questions in the comments section below. Please share, subscribe, thumbs up this video, all the ways you show me love, and put all your video requests in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video.